What's up, DBS fans, horror fans, and anyone trying to make a movie? We are back with another episode, and we have a great one today because we are going to be talking about making dark characters, making some villains, because we have the villain of our last movie, The Devil's Hostage, Pete Berwick, who did an absolute fantastic job. And we're going to talk today basically how we kind of developed this character. When I say villain, he's basically the one stopping our protagonist from moving the story forward. But at the same time, we did such a good job developing his character in pre-production. He has his own backstory. He has a reason for what he is doing. At the end of this movie, you will feel for him. And I think these are my favorite villains of all time, are the ones who have a reason for doing what they're doing. They're not just evil. They have a reason for it. And honestly, I thank Pete for coming up with a lot of this stuff. And we're going to kind of go over how he built that character, what I needed from him, to tell the story from a director's standpoint, and basically how we created my favorite movie so far, which is The Devil's Hostage. So Pete, thanks again for joining us. I first want to just start with your background. How did you get into acting? Tell me a little bit about Pete before you met DBS.
Well, Brendan, first off, I've been holed up in my house for 2 weeks, recovering from a stunt gone wrong down some questionable stairs. So thanks for coming to my house. You're the first one I've talked to in 2 weeks, besides my wife and my dog. But anyway, how did I get into acting? Goes way back. I first ventured into film in the late 80s, early 90s. But before that, I would say my official foray into show business was when I was 16. But going even further back than that, I remember being a little kid, even in my crib. And some people can't recollect a time in their crib, but I can. I remember being out on 3 floor and just knowing I would just like entertain the walls, And to me, there was always an invisible audience somewhere. When I went in my backyard, there'd be an invisible audience, and I'd play act, things. And anyway, so then speed up to 16, 17, I was semi-homeless, living in my station wagon in Orange Grove in Central Florida, not far from where you reside. It was a town called Lake Wales, and when I say semi-homeless, it means my parents had dumped me off with my mom's hairdresser, and it's a long story. They headed back to Illinois. I wanted to stay in Florida. Had a girlfriend, had a band I was trying to put together. I said, I'm staying here. So I did, and I didn't want to stay with their hairdresser. So I tried to put together this band while living semi-homeless. Well, that fell, but at least I tried, and that got the momentum going. So I'll fast forward then to when my wife and I moved to Nashville around 89, 1990, and that was a good time to be there. Country music still sounded like country. I got signed to a small record label right there on Music Row in the heart of Nashville, and cranked out my first record, Train Out of Nashville. Boy, it was great. Things were rolling, and I learned a lot. I put together a band. I opened a show for Charlie Daniels, and I would perform with some other, Grand Ole Opry mainstays, had some headwind going. Then my manager, record label, they decided to leave town with the masters, and but down there, so I'm working in the car wash for $3 to $5 an hour, and my wife found an ad in the back of a local paper. She said, "Look, this company is looking for clowns and magicians and variety entertainers." And I said, "No, that's not what I came down here for. I came down here to make it big in music." That's lame. She says, "Well, how lame is it working for $5 an hour at the car wash? 10 hours a day." 6, 7 days a week, slaving. So long story short, I did it. I learned the business of kid entertainment, moved back to Chicago, and started an entertainment company where for 20 years I booked 200 to 300 events a year, and most of them I was performing at as Elvis, Johnny Cash, superhero characters. I was performing my music solo and with my bands. I was booking DJs, plate spinners, balloon artists. I was a professional clown doing kid parties. Some people laugh when I say I was a professional clown, but I made big bank. I made more money than I'd ever seen in my life. I was almost approaching, would that be 6 figures? Yeah, it would, if that was $100,000, but not quite. But going back a little bit, so my first acting, because this is what we're talking about here. So I wasn't down there to act, but somehow I found this nice country gal. I can't remember her name, but I don't know if I found her, she found me, but she had the startup talent agency. and she sent me out doing extra work for country music videos. Some of the stars of the day, which people probably wouldn't recognize today. Patty Loveless, Travis Tritt, unless they're into the 90s country, and anyway, so I worked as an extra. That was, it was $75 and all the donuts and coffee and a free meal. It was great. It was a day off for the car wash, but I wasn't looking at it like, I'm going to take this any further. And then this nice lady, she got me work as an extra on an HBO. And before then, I was doing industrial films, commercials. I did a feature movie where I'm a gangster, kind of a comedy movie. I don't think that it went anywhere. But back then, you really never knew where your work ended up. Now you can just Google yourself and everything, and I'll do that. It's like, oh my gosh, there's half a dozen films nobody told me about. Thanks. You didn't know. And some of it did. I did a commercial that ended up on ABC where I played this comedy character. That was cool. People were calling me from Chicago saying, wow, Pete, wow, you must really be making it down there. Yeah, I'm on my way back to the car wash as I speak. Well, this would be before I left the house. No cell phones back then. So anyway, it was an HBO movie directed by the legendary John Frankenheimer, Birdman of Alcatraz, Manchurian Candidate, Black Friday. This guy's worked with everyone, Sinatra, Liz Taylor, you name it, And I'm an extra, so it's a prison movie based on the Attica prison uprising in the 70s. And so, I'm always looking, Brendan, you and I know each other pretty well by now. We've worked together. I'm like you. You're a workaholic, and you're always working, and there's never a no. There's always a back door somewhere. I'm always looking for opportunities within opportunities. And I'm in this holding area with a bunch of us extras. We're making minimum wage. Nashville's a right to work stage, so that's what we're getting. And the AD comes in. Nice guy, but I could tell he was on the way to getting a major ulcer dealing with us yahoos. It was like being in a prison. He says, I need someone to die today. But here's the thing. You're off the set because you're dead. And I had like another month to go. This is like a full-time extra work, man. It was like almost 2 months of extra work. Nobody's hand went up. Mine shot right up. Camera in my face, bitch. I'm going to take that instead of another month in the back of my head, right? And so next thing I know, I'm led to this tier of the prison. And inside is a supporting actor who was not yet famous yet, but his name was Samuel L. Jackson. And he wasn't famous yet, Brendan, because this is like 92. I think he'd done Jurassic Park. Not yet Pulp Fiction. So he was like one of 3 supporting actors. The lead actor, Michael something, some Irish name, he was like a soap opera star. But the movie's gone on to win a Gold Globe and some awards. It's called Against the Wall, and you can get it on all kinds of, every platform, I think, Disney. Anyway, so I'm getting shanked by this, Puerto Rican dude. They put me with this thin little vest. Bam, 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 bam. God, man, over and over and over. My chest was so sore after that. With the retractable knife. You know about this business. I'll have to tell you. Bam, 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 bam. I don't think there's no Tabitha there. They have blood. Well, actually, there was blood somehow coming out. I can't remember how they do that. But anyway. And when I was done, I'm getting up. Well, I guess I'll go, get my keys. And here's John freaking Frankenheimer saying, get that guy a wig. Get that guy a hat, a disguise. He did such a great job for me today. I want him on the set the rest of the shoot. And the AD's standing there. He's probably glad to get rid of me because I was kind of a pain in the ass to him. I was always like, hey, man, am I going to get a credit? Am I going to get this? Hey, look it over there. I try to tell him I'm just starting out. I'm going to give him advice. He's kind of like, oh, my God, I'm so pissed. Fuck. So, and when you see the movie, there's so many bloopers and things because you can see things like here I am there, and then there's other people getting off the bus, and then they shouldn't be getting off the bus because they got off the previous bus. But that's only shit that we see, But so that was really an experience. And okay, I spent too much time talking about that. And so then we moved back to Chicago. I got the freaking kid entertainment business going for the next 20 years. That kept me busy as hell with 300 bookings a year. And that's why I don't have to work anymore if I don't want to. And in between, I did a reality show called Wife Swap. And I was on America's Got Talent twice. And, I could go on and on and on, but I know we're in a time limit.
No, man. I mean, you definitely have one of the most diverse backgrounds, that I've come across with actors, which is really cool because the stories you were telling me were absolutely fantastic. They kept everyone really entertained. And to work with someone who's as experienced as you is, it's a blessing for me, because most of the time I'm working with actors who are newer, like myself. We're all new in the film industry. To have someone who's a little bit more seasoned is always just a little bit of a load off my shoulder, because you've done this many, many times. You understand what we're trying to do with the movie, what I'm trying to do as a director. It's a lot easier to work with someone who's a little bit more seasoned, as opposed to someone who's green, who this is their first lead role or this is their first feature movie. So let's get into, the audition for Devil's Hostage, because this is kind of a cool little situation where I'm still trying to figure out how to do the best auditions. For Pete's character, we had 3,000 or 4,000 auditions for this role. There's a ton of people who, auditioned and submitted. My audition philosophy now, which differ from what it was before, is I try and give the actor as much information about the sides as I possibly can, so that we're on the same page. Again, I can't sit down and direct them. They're giving me it's a one-page sheet. They have to give their performance.
Yeah.
For the most part, 80% of people just cannot read that page and give me something that I want, or something that, it is pretty easy to understand from the page. And if that happens, I understand there's obviously some kind of disconnect between them and reading the script, and we probably have to move on. They're just not a right fit. Now, when we got to Pete did it a completely different way, but his performance was so good that we're like, okay, this guy just needs a little bit of direction. For most actors, I wouldn't have done that. But he came down these steps. I think his wife filmed it. We'll ask him in a second. His wife filmed it. He had a shotgun. And I'll tell you what, if you have props when you do your audition, instant bonus points, because it shows you're just taking a next step than just recording against a blank wall. But he played it in a way that I thought was just really, really cool. It wasn't how we actually did it in the movie, but it was just, you could see the talent that he had, and the way he did it his own way was just really cool and unique. And I always remember Dylan was like, hey, I love this. So you got to thank Dylan for getting this role, because Dylan's like, this is my guy. I think he's really, really good. And I watched it and I'm like, I could see it. I could see the potential in there. He just went in a completely different direction. So talk to me a little bit about that audition, because I thought it was really unique and it stood out. Honestly, it probably was good because you stood out in front of, 3,000 people. But talk to me a little bit about the audition and how you kind of went about the audition when you got the sides.
Brendan, and I hope, you can edit out anything you want, but it's priceless what you told me. I don't know if it was how many DBS staff were sitting around watching that, and you guys were hesitant at first to hire me because you thought I might actually be mentally unstable. No, it's like, that's when I know I did my work, because of the rocking back and forth. Okay, so you want me to tell you about the audition? I didn't think it was my best audition. And I felt like if there's ever an audition, I should have gone back. But, as we know, and we're going to talk about further, this script was a breathing entity. It was a work in process. Much change. And as you said just a little while ago, the arc, my character ended up being something totally different than that. Because what I saw in the script was this guy's pleading. He's got this shotgun. He doesn't want to kill these kids, but he sure doesn't want the demon release. So he's pleading, I beg of you, And so I had to find this fine line between begging and pleading, but yet being a loose cannon that could just at any minute say, okay, I've asked enough, and get bloody. But, the sides, as they usually are short. But yeah, I mean, I didn't think it was my best audition, but in the end, it's like they say in sports, winning, you can win ugly, but it's still winning. And,
I mean, it worked because everyone liked it. And that's a big thing. It's very rare that we're unanimous on a lot of our stuff. I listen to, Dylan and Tegan and the rest of the crew. If they really like someone, I'm like, okay, but I think we were unanimous for you all the way around. I don't think I ever worried about, finding other people for this role, which shows that you did a really good audition. And, sometimes I guess they just feel a little bit different. But I do want to talk, because the audition sides, we completely changed his character when I started talking to Pete. And you guys have heard me talk before, like pre-production is the biggest part of us at DBS, which we'll talk about now. This is about, I think we had 6 to 8 weeks from, first meeting Pete and making sure, he accepted the role to actually filming. And with our scripts, with my scripts, I'm worried about specific things in there, not the script in itself. And I made that very clear with Pete, what I wanted. I wanted, a guy who's in there. He has to be the villain, I use it in quotes because we'll talk about how we really gave him a lot of depth to the point where when you're going to watch this movie, you feel for him. There's a point where it will be debatable whether his character is more morally aligned than the protagonist of this movie, Madison's character, which is awesome. To build like those dynamics is, the chef's kiss on screenwriting.
Right.
But it all came from Pete's production and pre-production and what he did in there. And we, as we're kind of going through this and I'm sitting down and looking at this, I'm like, this character is better this way. So just to give you guys an idea of what it was, the whole side and his whole big moment was like these guys break into his house. They're trying to take this demon that he has captured. And basically there's a standoff with a gun. The kids have all the power basically because they have this demon. They're trying to do it. He understands what's happening. He's trying to plead with them. And it didn't really work too well. And we kind of revamped the whole thing. But let's start from the beginning of the pre-production, going into the lore, because you had a lot of biblical references. Let's start into that. So you have this character. I made it very clear what I wanted, but I also made it clear that it was a blank slate. Go into how you first broke down the script and how you started to get some ideas, especially the biblical stuff.
Yeah, I'll tell you, Brendan, I don't think I ever worked harder on a character with backstory, needing to know the backstory, because a lot of it wasn't there. And I'm sure I know how you work. That's probably purposeful because, a script should never be etched in stone. And I always bring ideas to any project I work in, and some directors are open and others are just like, no, it's just okay. I don't take anything personally. I just think it, but with you, yeah. So as I read the script, I think it was obvious what I needed to. And when we had our first of maybe half a dozen pre-production meetings, you were like, yeah, I know that. It's like, forget the dialogue because, the dialogue was kind of like the sides. Most of the lines, I'm just roaming through the house with my gun. You don't know what you're doing. You don't know what you're doing. Stop it. I beg you. It's like, there's more to this guy than that. Otherwise, he's pretty one-dimensional, half-a-dimensional. And so, yeah, being a preacher's son and growing up with the Bible and the scripture, and I really saw the spiritual, putting my unfinished dialogue aside, I'm reading the whole thing from beginning to end. I saw the moral dilemma, the moral abstractness, the you're right. Who, like, you're calling me the villain, but you just explained, right, am I the villain or is Matt, who's more evil? Who, and Maddie's got, what's her intention? So there was a lot of opposing forces. The morals there, kind of like what I would describe my character, Homeowner, is that, that old moral question, would you throw a baby off a bridge to save the other 1,000 people, the 1,000 people on the bridge, if it came down to you and the baby was in your hands, kind of like that scene in The Dark Knight with the two ships and, whoever pushes the button first. But, yes. And this character was so complex and right up until the shoot, man. And I don't usually do, of course, I bring the script to my size. Every actor does, I'm sure. But right up until, even through the last day of the shoot, man, I've got notes all over my bed and just, and because it was always changing. And, you called me to set, I'd be, okay, what am I going to do? And you were leaving it so open for me. And it's wonderful. And I was really able to just dive into the good book and bring out these, because, the Bible is epic. The Psalms it's really, I know it's a tough book to get through. Root Canal is preferable to a lot of people, especially the Old Testament. But man, there's parts in there, Charlton Heston, epic. 10 Commandments, epic, and that's how I saw Homeowner. He's this as we discuss, I don't know whether we ever really decided where he came from. I believe if we ever do a prequel, that we had talked about doing, he's been excommunicated. He's a renegade priest or preacher, and he's been excommunicated from the church. And part of his penance, and others like him around the globe, is the church put him in charge of keeping these demons at bay. So in his case, in this offshoot of the house, a garage, and he has to go out and feed this demon periodically by kidnapping young girls. So right out of the gate, man, I'm on nobody's side there. You know, snuffing them with chloroform, throwing. It's always a white van, right? My white van, you know. It's like, who is this guy? And it's such fun playing a guy like this who appears to be the villain. But what I'm really doing as homeowner is saving the planet. Because if this demon, I look like a maniac. I'm pleading with these kids as I'm trying to catch them. I'm walking around the house with my shotgun. I've already blown away one. The rest got my money. I think we left the bag behind. I can't remember if one still has it, but they're locked in. And the demon's with them, or isn't the demon with them? I don't know. I just can't let the demon out. I'm screaming, you can't let it out. The apocalypse will be the end of all of us. You don't know what you're doing. And that's now. During the movie, the viewers, I would imagine, going, this guy's nuts. Not that he's insane. But we'll see in the end. I'm not going to give away any of it, because maybe I am nuts. Maybe, right? Conspiracy shit. But yeah, so it was a wonderful, I don't know if it was, I'd call it an arc, because I feel like, the character was the same from beginning to end, but we kind of like realized at the end what his motive was all about. But I would call that definitely this character was extremely challenging. And without those pre-production meetings, now, I in any other case, with a lot of like these short films I do, and where it's like, okay, I got, I'll limit it to maybe one Zoom rehearsal. It's like, okay, come on, I'm ready. Let's just do this. But with this thing, it was, oh God, it was priceless. And I knew we had to do it. And it was a great role. I was looking forward to, getting out of the house for a week, coming down to Atlanta, and who wouldn't? And, yeah, we just dug deep, man. We went down some rabbit holes, and we agreed on a lot of things. I think we agreed on more stuff than we didn't. There might have been some weird ways I wanted to go with it where you're like, I don't know, and it's fine. We weren't there to argue. It was so beneficial. And dude, I'm telling you, it was certainly a highlight of 2025, man. Fucking highlight.
Yeah, I mean, like, one of my favorite things is like when there's certain actors, like, well, I'll come off the Zoom, or I'll go into the Zoom, and I'm really excited because I'm like, Pete would come with a whole bunch of, like, he put it on his emails, a whole bunch of new lore and stuff that he's finding. And that helps me out because it's, he's doing research into his character. We were really trying to give him a backstory, which, I think we did. How much of it actually comes across in the movie, I'm not really sure, but it's good for his performance. And it's like,
yeah, right.
I don't think he didn't have an arc for himself, but the viewer gets an arc because we're giving the viewer limited information about this character all the way through up until the end when you're like, oh, wait, hold on here. Like, there's more to him than meets the eye, which is really, really cool for me. It's probably the first time we've been able to pull that off. But each Zoom meeting, we dug deeper, we got better, we changed the script, and it was the perfect pre-production. This is what I'm trying to get when I have, I'm giving the actors the outline. I want them to color in the lines, but their job is to fill in, to do the work and fill that in and help me out. And, we did a great job with that. And I think the performance shows, all the actors in this movie did a phenomenal job doing pre-production. And again, if you guys are making a movie, you have to spend 8 weeks of hard pre-production in there. And even when we were, on set, when organic things happen, I'd be like, let's lean into this. Or Pete would be like, can we try this or do this? And that stuff was really, really good, especially when he's kind of wandering around, because his role is unique, as in he really had maybe 5 or 6 scenes that were really heavily scripted where he had to work off other actors or he had a giant monologue. The rest of it was just him going around. He had fight scenes. He had to yell. He just act kind of crazy. But let's go into one of the most important scenes, which is the intro scene. For all of our movies, how our audience works, if you haven't seen the DBS movie, if you don't understand what we're doing with our, indie horror movies, is a lot of our stuff will be on Amazon, be on Tubi, on these bigger platforms, but we don't have like that big, well-known, presence. We don't have a huge marketing budget. So people are seeing our stuff. They see a really nice cover. They see a really nice blurb. They see an awesome trailer. So like, I'll give this movie 3 minutes of my time. I think we've all been there where like, we don't really know what's going on. We're scrolling through Netflix or these other streaming platforms. They come across this movie. They'll give us 3 minutes. So we have to have a banger of an opening. This is the most important part of a movie. If people turn it off, we don't get paid because we get paid by ads. If they turn it off, the algorithm says people are disengaged, put this movie lower and bring up some other ones that people are actually watching. So we have to have a good opening. And with Pete, we had a good kidnapping scene, but then he has to deliver a monologue. And I want to talk to this because this was, I think this was the audition. No, this wasn't the audition scene, but this was a huge monologue where he's kidnapped a girl. We have to show the audience who he is, a little bit of what's going to happen in this movie, and make it clear that, you're watching a home invasion movie, but it has paranormal. We have to make it clear that it's a paranormal movie because this is what people are going to expect. So talk to me a little bit about this monologue, because you put a lot of work into this. A lot of the writing in this monologue was yours, and it turned out really, really good. I'm really happy with this. And this will be the one that I send you this weekend. But talk to me a little bit how you took that scene and kind of crafted this monologue.
Are you talking about the scene after I've kidnapped her? She awakens, and then I go, "Oh, you're awake."
Yeah, with the light hanging in the garage. We had this awesome. It looks great. We had the whole scene was lit by one light bulb, and we would like hit it so it kind of spirals, and he's coming in out of the shadows. It was fantastic.
Like the way theater actors they're only allowed one light bulb. But I don't.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Brendan, I hate to say this, but I believe I stuck to the script on that scene. Did I not?
No, boy.
I believe I did, unless we did a scene where you just said, "Pete, go off." Are you mixing this up with another scene? Because
I mean, I don't think so. Whatever you did in the monologue in the opening scene, if that was on the script, you did a good job following the script. But
well, I know what I did. Yeah,
okay.
I'm sorry. I know what you're talking about when she awakens, and I go, "Oh, you're awake," and then she's like, "Oh, this isn't my fault." I go, "It's not mine either, but we all have our burdens." Okay, that dialogue was so wonderful. But I know I improvised. I think what I did, what you might be thinking of, is I added there. Can you hear it? Can you hear it? Or something like, "Can you hear it? It's here," or something like that. I felt like it needed this something there before I walked out on her and said, "It'll be over soon." And I think that might be what you're remembering and feeling, because I took a pause, and I'm kind of like looking up. And I said, and I prolayed that. I prolayed. Fuck. Bling, bling. I delayed that. Prolonged. That's the word I'm looking for. I prolonged that tension. This girl, man, she doesn't know what's going to happen to her. Why should she? And I think that might be it. I don't know, man. I'm looking forward to seeing that. Maybe I did something I don't remember. That's possible.
No, I think it was like just building out that tension. And this is something that, we talked about in pre-production, as in, I can always edit you faster, right? But I can't edit you slower. And I was like, I really want to have you bring out this tension.
Right.
And we want to put the viewer in the seat of this kidnapped girl. If you wake up in a garage and you're chained to a chair,
right,
and you're giving this monologue, and I got a good question for you now. It just came to me. It was, we don't want you to be aggressive. You're almost sympathetic for the person. So talk to me a little bit how we got to that and how you kind of played on that. Because I thought that was a little bit unique, because it's not like, in most movies, it would be like you'd be yelling at her and upset and everything, and you just smack. I wanted to kind of make it like, hey, I don't want to do this, which kind of gives you a unique, it kind of builds on what we're talking about with, are you really the villain?
Absolutely. And I hope and pray that came through that way. Right. We talked about that because this is so important, that opening scene, because it's introducing my character, Homeowner. And, right. So, yeah, sympathetic for sure. I don't want to do this, man. I'm not a sex trafficker. I'm not a pervert. I have to do this. That's why devil's hostage. I still wonder now, am I the devil's hostage, or the young girls I kidnap, or the devil's hostage, or is Grace's character the devil's hostage? I mean, maybe we could leave that open, but I feel like I played it like the devil's hostage. I'm hostage to doing this. I hate it. And so, man, I mean, there's somebody's daughter, I got a daughter in real life. I mean, maybe Homeowner, we don't know. I know we had talked about with his backstory that maybe he lost his wife and daughter in a traffic accident, but we never really, we'll work on that for the prequel and days to come. Yeah, and I was sympathetic, and I was speaking softly to her. I know there's one time, though, where I lost it because she was just going on and on and on. I was like, I can't help it, kind of like that. And then I brought myself back in, and that's a difficult thing to do. But you're right, it was probably the most important. Every scene is important, but it was a tough scene. It was tough to get through, because I know you were directing it, and you were like, it's not clicking, it's not working, and you were right. You were right. Take after take after take. It was, but then we knew when we had it. We know, as experienced filmmakers, actors, we know when we have it and when we don't. We can't fool ourselves. We can't fool the audience.
Yeah, and some scenes are easy, and you get in there, and everyone can knock them out, and it's just everyone's on the same page. And there's others, especially this one, because I was very precious about it, because I know how important it is. I've been making these movies for a while. To go to distribution, they're going to look at the first 5 minutes of it, and I kind of look at each scene when it's still not. When you first start it, every scene's like a little bit rough. You have to, and I'm rough. I'm shooting it, so I have to block it properly. I have to make sure my focus is there. I'm going on the characters that need to, go. And I'm also editing in my own head. And so, I think it's something, if you're a filmmaker and the scenes are not coming together right away, that's fine. You just work it, try something different, and I always, try and ramp up the energy or bring down the energy. I'm trying to find, it's like calibrating, like a radio. You're trying to find the frequencies, and then you can feel it when it starts to get there, and you kind of lean into it, and then everybody starts to get it, and you're like, oh, whoa, like this is it. That's where you want to go with the scene. And I'm never really frustrated, because if I show frustration or anger or anything like that, it brings the set down, and my job is to keep everyone else.
No, I never saw that from you at all. You were the most cool, calm, and collected dude on fucking. Now Dylan plays the bad guy. Yeah, and I love him. No, Dylan's like, you know what? Don't make me mad. Okay, let's have a good day, but don't make me mad. It's like, if I could impersonate, but it's great. You gotta have that. You gotta have somebody cracking the whip. Oh man, that's my favorite person. Is a person on. It's usually the AD. Sometimes it's the producer. There's somebody walking around with a clipboard. That wasn't Dylan. He was okay. He's got better things to do. He's got more work than just walk around with a clipboard. But you got to have that person, because with the time, we're working on time, and we don't have this location forever, and we wrapped right on the nose. And my only regret is I couldn't stick around for the champagne, the wrap party. I was driving, and I had to get my 14-hour drive back but Brendan, brilliant on this. This is not really off the subject, but I always use an example of Al Pacino. So that opening scene where it just wasn't working, man, so you've seen The Godfather, I assume. Okay, So the opening scene is the wedding scene where he's just sitting at the table with Diane Keaton, Kay, his wife, and that's not me, Kay. This family isn't me, and they're just kind of having a conversation, And the studio wanted to drop him. They're like, this guy's got nothing. He's empty, man. He's a blank slate. And Pacino knew it too. He said, I hate that scene. I've read the script. I've worked on this character. I think I know how the arc of Pacino's character is insane. I mean, over the course of three movies. But The Godfather, he goes from this timid little guy just back from the army boy to the freaking Godfather. And so he hated, and then the studios wanted to drop him. I believe it was Paramount. And then after like a couple of weeks, Francis Ford Coppola takes him to dinner. He's like, Al, I don't think this is working. I may have to let you go, man. Pacino's, he's pissing in his pants, And then they came to a compromise. Al said, look, let me do the scene in the restaurant where I go in the bathroom, get the hidden gun, and blow away the crooked crop. The crooked crop. I'll say that 5 times real fast. The dirty cop, the other guy, the other gangster who wants to, who just almost killed his father. And they did that scene, and they rushed the dailies to the studio and they said, okay, we see it now. He was on the verge, and that's the movie that put him on the map, made him famous. They were on the verge of canning him because that first scene just wasn't cutting it. But then once they saw that, they went back and they said, okay, we get that first scene now. That's why because everyone looked at him as an inexperienced nothing. Where really to them, he'd done a lot of theater. He did Panic in Needle Park, which was an art film, but he did well, but it was just an art film. A lot of people didn't know about it. They didn't want him, man. They wanted Robert Redford or Jack Nicholson to play Mikey, And last I looked, those guys are very Italian, but maybe they do what they did with them. they pull a Tagan on him, they make him Italian without the blood, So that's great, So it's really, you never know, man, and we never know when we wrap and leave set. Personally, I think every actor's like this. I know even the movie stars are like this, man. You always. You'll be driving back or flying back, and I do this every freaking time. What did I leave on the table? What did I leave on the table? You really don't know if you even did a good job or not, But that's what editors are for, and that's what directors like you are for. You're not going to let us out of there unless we give you what you need.
Yeah, and that's the one thing that's always like kind of interesting with me is because a lot of actors, I don't give a lot of notes. I let you go, and if there's stuff we have to course correct, or if there's a scene that's just not vibing like the scene we just talked about before, I'll do my best to get it to where it needs to go. But for the most part, I'm not gonna end the scene if I don't feel like we've got everything. I put all my money up, we have all the cast and crew, spent all this time on it. If I'm not getting something that I'm 100% happy with, we're not going to fucking, stop that scene. So, that's always funny to me when the actors are like, should we do another one? I don't know if I got that. Did you get what you wanted? It's like, of course I got what I wanted, or I wouldn't move on, basically. But let's talk a little bit about, because you had the first scene, you have a couple scenes where it's like heavy monologues or heavy intense scenes. But you have a lot of stuff where you're like walking around, looking in the house, getting money and stuff like that. As an actor, you don't have a lot of lines in there, or at least when we were talking, I said, I don't know, I can't write lines for this because it's very improv based. How do you attack scenes that are more wandering through the house and doing these, longer takes where you're not working with another actor? There's no dialogue that's hard in,
right.
written in stone. How do you attack that as an actor?
That's so good, because I was showing my wife, I was watching some of the clips you have online with her just yesterday, I think, and the first scene we shot, where I'm in the basement, I just gotten in the scuffle with the kids. My leg's been stabbed by Matt, and I'm kind of like hugging the wall, I'm dragging my shotgun, and I'm just yelling out Bible verses. And my wife's like, "Who are you talking to?" I was like, good question. I said, well, really, I don't know. The good question. That's good. I think that tells me the viewers might, is this guy insane? He's just, but I'm shouting out to the kids. I'm obviously, the Lord is my shepherd. I wish I had my notes, dude. I can't, my memory fails me tonight. And I'm all these Bible verses, and the devil roams the earth like a hungry lion, all these epic Bible verses that I grew up with, waiting to see who he may devour. And then I'm wincing, I'm trying to play the beats and make it real because I am bleeding. And, yeah, so how do I do that? So really, that was monologue, and that was difficult. We worked on that, and that's why a lot of those Bible verses I ran by you, going all the way back to the Garden of Eden, because I wanted to, but in my studies on this, I wanted to correlate, this with the demon. And so, I got my Bibles. Of course, sometimes I cheated and used Google because I got my, let's see, was that in Corinthians or was that in Genesis? Because I remembered Satan. Well, Satan was God's highest angel. He was the archangel, Satan, and I believe as an angel was his name. Lucifer's an angel. I should know these things. Or did the name become Lucifer after he was fallen? I'm a little foggy. I'm sorry, but anyway, so. He wanted to, why should you have all the power, right? So God kicked him out of heaven. He fell with his legions of angels, the legions of thousands, so thousands, maybe countless. And I believe I believe demons walk the earth today. I think we discussed, I really believe, wars, these senseless murders and atrocities and genocides all over the world. We've lived in a bit of a cocoon here in the United States. I know, but I know in my older age, I see people are realizing, this shit's come home to roost and it's everywhere. And I believe it's because God has allowed Satan to rule for a time as the prince of darkness, the prince of this world. And so I was trying to channel that, bring that home to man's fallen state. And that's the thing, Brendan. That's what we came to in our meetings. That's right. That's so obvious. They had these. I think you even have it. I know I'll never remember what was your idea or mine or what was in the script or not. I got the script now in my closet, buried beneath the projects I've done.
I'll give you credit, Pete.
But it was like yeah. But the demons, these are fallen angels that sinned against God, that's stuck with Lucifer. They took his side, and this is the end result now.
Yeah. And one thing I just want to say to, people who are making a movie, if you have scenes where it's a chase scene or the villain is, going through the house, or someone's trying to, do scenes where there's not another actor, where it's just one person on camera, don't just tell them to improv, because every actor is going to tell you they can improv. Pete's very good at improv, but there's a lot of actors who are not good. And what they do is start to repeat the same lines over and over again. We had a lot of this problem in found footage movies because a lot of it is like you're out in the woods and spooky stuff's happening. You have to say all this stuff.
Right.
When they say they're good, everyone's going to tell you they're good at improv. Just no matter what. It's just an actor thing. They're going to say they're good at improv. Most people are not very good at improv. So here's what you do as a director is you just have a whole list of stuff.
Yeah.
Pete had, I think, 6 or 7 pages of just stuff that we agreed on, stuff that I added, and I just had him repeat the 7 pages over and over and over again. And that gives me enough to edit. Because the one thing is, like, we don't want to have too little. Too much is fine. That's it. My problem was I got too much footage. Oh, no, that's terrible. If I didn't have enough, we were in trouble. And I think he did a really good job. All of that stuff turns out really well. And it's a testament to him for, doing all this stuff, to have 7 pages of actual, of actual lore that is related to the Bible. It's actually, all this stuff in this movie is authentic. And we did a lot of work to make sure everything from the lore of the demon to everything through this is authentic. It's either happened or it's like quote unquote Bible lore. And people who understand that, I think, are going to get a deeper meaning of this movie. So let's go on to the next part of this thing where you actually come in and you see what they're trying to do. This was your audition scene. Yes. And it kind of went from you pleading to you being a little bit more aggressive because you understand if this demon gets freed, it's going to basically destroy the world. This is what it will do. The kids, or I always call them kids, the other actors in this movie who are who think it's just a girl that they're taking out, think you've kidnapped this girl. So it's like these dynamics at play of you're trying to explain to them what they're doing is going to cause.
It's not what it looks like.
Yeah. And they're saying this is a crazy person who basically kidnapped a girl. And that's the dynamic. And I love that dynamic. It's so good. But talk to me how you kind of went through that scene, what was going through your head to kind of keep that and kind of build it, because it was supposed to be a climax, and we wanted that climax. And I think you had the idea of just letting it drop a little bit before we hit him with a surprise. But talk to me through that scene, because this was I loved how this scene turned out.
Well, I appreciate the compliment on my improv skills, but if I recall, I came in there improving, and you winced. You made this face. I said, "Okay, denied," because I wanted to bring some comic relief to it. And you're like, no. This ain't. Remember, because and I was deliberating, dude. I was so looking forward to this scene more than any of them, and that's where I blow Dave away, and there's Tegan's beautiful special effects, blood splatter, and the kid, get the fuck, and I got to show a little bit of my temper. Homeowner showing some temper there. They're trying to unleash the demon. They're trying to steal my money, but I thought, so first of all, action, bam. I don't know what we're going to see in the editing, but David's, big hole in his stomach. He's blown away, and then they enter Homeowner. And I didn't tell you I was going to do this. And my line, I thought I was going to say, well, with enemies like that, who needs friends, huh? and you cringe. You were like, and then, come on, man, it's funny. I know it's horrible, but I always try to get a laugh, at least, because I got a comedy history, And
I'll tell you what, Pete, I do appreciate that. I would love to do comedy horror. From distribution standpoint, they do not want any comedy at all, any of our stuff. And it's just, I'm trying to do campy stuff. I have campy movies that I'm pitching. I'm trying to do a fantasy football slasher right now. They don't like campy stuff at all. So it wasn't, I appreciate the line. I love the one-liners. I'm 70s and 80s horror is my favorite horror. It is the sleepaway camp. I love all that stuff. Today's day, these A1 authentic stuff.
Well, even the most serious movies. I'm a poignant guy. I like all kinds of movies. I like poignant movies. I'm a Manchester by the Sea, man. That's one of my favorite movies. I watch it every winter, First time I try to watch it, my daughter turns me on, and I'm like, this is boring. Then I came back. I watch it once a year. Even that is a very serious movie. My God, the guy lost his kids in a house fire. He's Casey Affleck. But there's funny lines in there without trying to be funny. They just make you chuckle. So I was trying to bring another dimension to him. Like, just show that Homo, because I'm serious all throughout this thing. It's all Bible scripture, shotguns, knives and blood. And I thought, maybe, but I understand it because as it went on, you wanted it more fast paced. And the things I was doing was just slowing it down right out the gate. So, that's fine. And so, what can I say about it? It was, that really happened fast. Now, and that was my first time working with all the actors. This wonderful cast of Matt, Madison, and David, and Grace was chained to the chair. The whole cast. That was the first time. The whole cast. And up until then, it was just scenes like this is me and myself. Stumbling through the hall, screaming out, shouting out, talking to myself, mumbling shit, hollering out to them. You can run, but you can't hide. And man, it was like, boom, that's what I really know is in the middle of making a movie. Because these were some of the finest actors I worked with, at least in a while. I mean, they were so on their game. And I felt the old guy I am, although I've got decades of experience on them, they really forced me to up my game because they were so, I had no room. They were bam, 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 bam. It was, I felt like I was in the ring boxing again. They were just so quick and tight, and it was wonderful working with them. And afterwards we all high five. It was like, we finally, we all worked as a cast in one scene. And I do believe, correct me if I'm wrong, that might be the only scene where the entire cast is in that one together, right?
And I'll tell you what, this whole movie felt different as far as just, like Pete said, you don't know what you're going to get when you walk off set, because again, we're editing, we have an on-set editor, Jeff does a good job of putting stuff together, but you really don't know what you're going to get until it's uploaded.
Yeah, right.
But you can feel the energy. And we were in this tight little garage, and this was the biggest scene probably in DBS history, because we usually only have 2 or 3 actors. We had 4 actors. It was a fight scene. It was an intense scene. It was really, really cool. Yeah. We had a ton of people in there. It was a very complex scene. Like going into it, I was like, oh boy, here we go. Cause like for people who don't know how to make a movie, it's little pieces of putting a puzzle together. And so I have to do like 3 takes of Pete. I have to do 3 takes of, Grace, of Madison, of, Andrew, of Matt. And then I have to do wides. And then when we move a different setup, you have to do 3 more and 3 more and 3 more. I mean, that whole scene was probably 100 takes of different things, which is crazy. But you could feel it got better and better and better, and how you guys worked off each other. And it's like, good acting is like a ping pong. It's like playing pong, where you smack that against it and they smack you right back, and you get this momentum going. And I'm just sitting there, I'm like, this is great. This is great, And then it sucks for me because I'm like, I don't want to move on because each take gets better and better and better. But it's like, we have to because we have time. And I love this scene. I had so much fun shooting this scene because we had no problems. There was no issues with this entire scene. We had special effects in there. We had a lot of actors, and everything was tight. Everything was perfect. Honestly, this is probably my favorite scene that I ever shot in DBS history. I absolutely love it. I love how it turned out. But let's get into the next thing, which was your fight scene with Matt Pearl, because he had to kind of beat you up a few times.
Yeah.
Well, multiple times, because we had to do a lot of takes again. What was it like working with Matt on the fight scene? Walk us through the fight scenes, because they're a little bit different than, a regular scene. And here at DBS, we want to make sure everybody's comfortable about it. But you are getting on a hard concrete floor, pummeled by Matt for multiple takes.
Well, as you know, I do my own stunts. I just edited one at the bottom of the staircase, smacking my head against the wall. But are you talking about the fight scene in the garage or the fight scene later on when we sneak around?
Let's talk about both, because both of them were very heavy scenes. So just to give you guys a context, he had a fight scene in the garage, which is the one we just talked about. But he also had a fight scene, which is the climax, in which he, struggles with another guy with a gun. And, with fight scenes on indie films, you really just want to kind of break it down to as many small segments as you possibly can. Because they are very difficult, but you want to choreograph them as much as possible to make sure everybody is comfortable with them. So, Pete, let's talk about that, how you choreographed it, how you worked with Matt to make sure you both are comfortable, doing these kind of crazy scenes.
Yeah, well, first of all, Matt is just a fabulous, terrific actor. Great casting. If anyone's a movie star, he is. He's such a good-looking young man. He's so polite, and it's just a pleasure to work with. And, yeah, we both really worked on, of course, with your direction, respecting each other. Let's not hurt each other. This is dangerous stuff. We're dealing with shards of glass, punches thrown. And I was trying to channel my boxing experience from I boxed in the past, amateur. It doesn't matter. In that sport, you actually punch the person. So, of course, but we have to cheat this stuff, which, of course, which you do. Otherwise, we're all dead. And Matt's great, and he and I know we clicked with these scenes, trying to make it look as realistic as possible without hurting each other. And I know we pulled that off. And whenever, at least me personally, I'm in a scene like that, I always ask my co-actor, "Are you okay? Tell me if I'm grabbing your throat too tight." "No, you're okay." And sometimes I've been in scenes where I actually have to pretend to slap a woman. And I was in a scene with one woman. I'm getting a little off subject. A couple of years ago, she said, "Go ahead and really slap me." I said, "No, come on." She said, "Do it." So I slapped her, but I held back. But no, of course, I couldn't really put a piece of glass through Matt's jugular. But yeah, so that was really complex, and it was happening so fast because that was a scene we just did. Get away, blah, blah, blah. And then the light flickers goes out. She's getting loose, and then I'm on the. I'm trying to remember. Does Matt knock me down? Next thing I know, he's on top of me.
Yeah, he's just on top of you.
Oh no,
he stabbed you with a screwdriver.
He's got me down. He's just pummeling my face, and of course, we're doing the make it look real. Not really pummeling my face, but and then he's trying to get away. I grab him. Well, he stabs me in the leg, but don't I stab him too? I can't remember. He stabbed me in the leg.
I don't know if you.
He stabs me in the leg.
Yeah, he stabs you in the leg with a screwdriver.
Yeah. And so then he gets away. And then, so from there on out, my leg's bloody there and everything. And yeah, that was, I don't know how many takes that took, but that was a lot of fun. And then, of course, later on, we run into each other in the house. He's coming around the corner with a knife. I got the shotgun. I shoot and just miss. Then I go to cock it again. It's jammed. We get in a scuffle. I throw a blow. We did the over-the-shoulder shot, and I saw the clip, and it looks like I really hit him, and that's just from the clip. That's not from your point of view. And then, of course, we decided, how are we going to get rid of this gun while we finish the scuffle? Because we're going to end up on the floor with all this broken glass from the falling painting, and we got to get this gun out of the way. And so we did it where we were just kind of like, and the gun gets tossed on the couch, and then I end up on top of him, and I grab the shard of glass, and so... Yeah, the way you do this. I mean, should we give away your tricks? You want to give away your tricks of the trade, or are we just talking about?
I am I would give away all the tricks of the trade. This is all the stuff we do on YouTube is basically what would I tell younger Brendan if he was first starting. So go ahead and give away all our secrets.
Well, you got it with the online clips. You can see how we do it. How it's going to look like I reach for this big shard of glass. How am I going to look like I'm driving this thing into a throat without actually doing it? Because, we don't want to go that way, of course. We start off with it against his throat, very softly, and then you go back. Then lay it there again. Go back. And you got, Tagan working the blood pump. So it's kind of like the early movies, like the way they just... What do you call that photography? You just take a bunch of the little books where you flip it. I guess, I don't know if that's a good example. But, so when you see it, it's going to look like this, right? We're basically working backwards. Did I describe it right?
Yeah, no, I mean, honestly, the flip book is a great analogy. I was trying to figure out a way to kind of say that. But for, you editors, he starts here and goes back.
Right.
You just reverse it. And when you reverse it, it looks like you're going in. Because
the
problem when you have this is he can't physically go like this.
Yeah.
Because even though it's like blunted and everything, you don't want to be smacking the other actor with a giant, he had like a piece of a frame in his, like, even if you're doing it soft, you just don't want to do that. But if you start like this and go back aggressively and I reverse it, it looks like he's stabbing him. It worked perfect.
Right.
Then let's talk about my favorite shot of the movie is because I'm a team player, I laid on my back to get the POV of Pete. Pete's stabbing my neck, basically, just to get his POV. So what was it like straddling me when I'm there with the camera right in your face?
Gosh, I barely remember that.
All I know is the whole crew, Dylan and Tegan, were giving me shit because it was Pete's on top of me, and the camera's like right there, and it's just he has to pretend because I'm only seeing his face; it's very tight, and he's just like and I'm there accepting my fate of doing this.
Come on, we need another beer run. Damn it, more beer, brother. We're running low on beer. I think I do remember that. Yeah, I do remember that. I don't know what to say about that. I hope I didn't crush you or hurt you or anything.
No, man, it was great. Whatever it takes to get the shot done. Yeah. And that both those fight scenes are always hard for us because we are very indie and it's harder to pull these things off. And we did the ones in this one are absolutely fantastic. So let's go on to the next scene that's really big for you is you have like an Achilles slit, but you also have a throat slit. When you kind of meet your end. Talk to me a little bit Talk to me a little bit about what it was like working with Tegan and getting in the makeup chair for all these prosthetics.
Oh, God. Tegan is just the finest at her craft. She is honed her craft. Just incredible. And, I've been following her work on Instagram with your other movies and whatnot. I was blown away my first time working with you guys, including, your whole crew. And then when I came back and I saw... I started to, research some of your past. I researched your work. I watched a few of your movies before because I wanted to know your work and what you do. I try to do this whenever I can. I think people who don't come to set doing the research and, oh, okay, what do you want me to do? And it's like, they're just there for the, I don't know, money. I don't know. They're not serious. But anyway, I could see that she's been doing this as her work is insane. And it's just, I think I told you this. I posted one of the scenes, I think it was a fight scene with me and Mac, where he's on his back and blood's just all over the place. He's bleeding out. And I posted that on Facebook and they flagged it. Inappropriate content. Oh, but it's okay to post, soft porn and, fake news. So that should be a compliment to tagging. But no, her work is just insanely unbelievable. I don't know what else to say. And it was just, it was some time in the makeup chair, but it was well worth it. And it's fun. I love being in the makeup chair. A lot of times I skip the makeup chair because I tend to play, guys that look the way I do now. Just scruffy guys. They're half homeless or the burnt out detective like Columbo's. He's popping ulcer pills and chain smoke, and he's a wreck. His tie's always just. They don't want to make me up. You don't want to make me look. But in this case, you got these wounds, and oh yeah, working with her. I look forward to it again. She's the best in her field, and man, dude, you need someone like her for the kind of movies you're making. You certainly do, because you can't fake that. You can't fake that, And I know we're in the age of trolls now, and everyone's, they're going to nitpick, and, that doesn't look real. That's fake. Fake blood, fake whatever, And I don't know what else to say about that, but it was great. And I remember, so you guys were at me, and we're high-fiving and hugging. I'm getting up to my room, and I'm pulling off all the latex and getting clean, getting ready to. I got my car pretty much packed, got everything out of my room. I'm ready to head back to Chicago, 14-hour drive. I'm heading down the stairs, one last wave, and then Dylan says, Pete, we blue-balled your rap. We need you for one more shoot. I go, man, I got all the makeup. Don't tell me I got to be in the makeup chair for another hour. He said, no, we're not going to see your face. We just need you lying lying by the door. So that was cool. Yeah, we got that done. Man, my heart just went like, oh my God, But...
Yeah, no, I'm glad you brought up that story because I was going to bring up that story because it is one of my favorite stories, and it's a huge mistake by my part.
No.
Basically, don't tell actors they're done when they're not done.
Until they're on the driveway.
Crazy. Yeah, we had this crazy scene where he gets his throat ripped out. And he's done, and we're like, just shower off. And Pete's like, I got to drive all the way back to Chicago. So I'm like, that's fine. Like, let's get you out of here. And he's showering, and we're doing more of the shots and everything like that. And, I think Dylan, he's like, hey, man, like, we're going to do this next shot, and we need to see the body. And I'm like, no, that can't be right. And then I'm like, looking at it, I'm like, oh, we need the body. And I'm like, we got to tell Pete that he has to come back down and act. And like, once you're wrapped, we did the celebration. Everyone, claps that Pete's wrapped. I don't want to bring him back in there. So I'm like, Dylan, could you get in Pete's like outfit? And Dylan and Pete have very different body shapes. So it wouldn't have worked out. So I'm like, and again, Dylan's fantastic. It's a job of the ADs. He's got to get shit on. I'm like,
you got a standing credit.
Yeah, I was like, you got to go tell Pete that he's got to just lay on the ground for a little bit for these next couple of shots because it's like a scene with Madison and Grace, but you need a body in there. And we messed up two movies before this with Echoes of Evil where we wrapped an actor and he flew out and we needed a body, but we kind of cut around it. But you could, if you didn't know that he was not there, you're not going to know. But like, I know, and it's going to drive me nuts. So the fact that I was like, we got to get him back here. So Pete did a great job. He had to just lay down for a couple shots, but we got it, and I appreciate that. But that's such a good story. So,
dude, listen to me. Quit apologizing. It did not matter. It took me freaking forever to get out of Atlanta. I think it wasn't even rush hour, man. It was like 10:30 at night, and I'm just crawling. It was like, at least 2 hours of just until I finally got on what's that main highway, 75 that runs through Atlanta,
something like that. I'll tell you, Atlanta had the worst traffic I've ever had in my entire life. I love shooting in Atlanta because all our actors are there. It's easy to fly everyone in there. But I had to go to FedEx and Kinko's to just print something out. And it took me like 4 or 5 hours just on like the craziest stuff.
It's
And like the stoplights on the highway, whoever designed that, terrible idea. Do not like that at all.
I didn't leave.
But other than that,
yeah, I didn't leave set the whole week I was there. I mean, I would walk around the neighborhood, have a little smoke on my cigar, walk around the neighborhood, but I didn't even get in my car. I didn't want to, I was happy, with the pool and everything. I was fine. The last thing I was going to do was go because I had time to go sightseeing because, we wouldn't start until evening. We were doing overnight shoots. And I'm like you, man, I would come down at if I go to bed at 1 o'clock in the morning or 8 o'clock at night, I'm still going to wake up at 3 o'clock, 5 o'clock. I think I swallowed a rooster when I was a kid. I would come down at 5 and you'd be there working on your book company, your book publishing, we'd chat and everything. Then you'd go back down. Maybe you went back to sleep, but everyone else slept up until I had hours to kill. And I try to go back sometimes I can't go back to sleep. So I had plenty of time to sightsee, to see Atlanta, but I had no desire, especially after a drive like that. I don't want to. And when I come back from a drive like that, I don't go anywhere for a week. If I'm not working, I just stay home because but I hate flying even more. And that's why, you gave me the option of airplane, and then I said, you know what, dude, I'll just rent a car. And I'm glad I did and now, oh my God, look at it now with the.
I mean, I like that you could drive as long as you made the finances work, and you did. It's a lot easier for me to just have you come in. We've had some bad luck with flights, and obviously now it's going to be even worse. So let's wrap it up here. Pete. Any tips that you would give to new actors, people who want to try and get into this industry, or, any tips on how you kind of, do this? You've been doing it for a while. If you could give some advice to young Pete, what would it be?
Well, yeah, I've been doing it for a while. I have 110 credits on IMDb. If anyone wants to check me out there, and it's everything from music videos to commercials to industrial films, features, shorts, you name it. Sadly, I feel like when I find myself mentoring aspiring young actors, I feel my age. I'm 67, and I'll try to tell them what worked for me. This is a new age, man. This is a new time, and what worked for me is an old way, and it may not work for you. It took me decades to get to this point. It doesn't have to for you because you got this thing called the internet I didn't have, and all the things we can do with the internet. It's like, really, what can I tell anybody? I mean, I will leave some pointers. I know you need to wrap it up, but this internet here that we're on right now, this used to be the property of the record labels, the major studios, the high level publicists, agents. It was the holy grail that we didn't have access to. But with this internet, we can contact anyone, any of the people I just named, the majors, studios. You can, whether it's a record label or a movie studio. I can personally, anybody can personally contact a high level publicist or agent. Doesn't mean they'll give you the time of day, but at least you can try, and I do believe in miracles. As far as advice, I would just say, and I have young people come to me now and then, but what they want me to do is wave a magic wand. I don't have one. If you're looking to be famous, what fame is, it's merely the perversion of the natural human instinct for validation and attention. If that's your end game, I don't know. There's other ways to get famous. Quicker ways than that, probably even, but and I've had that with my decades of music too. But what's your secret? Kind of, we've been together. We want to make it. You're going to take this shit to the grave because fame isn't what it used to be. It used to be something special. It's not anymore because everyone's famous. Andy Warhol's vision came true. Everyone's famous for 15 minutes, and it means little right now. But what does matter is that you hone your craft, and when people see your work, even if it's the most micro budget of all movies, it doesn't even go anywhere. If enough people see it, they go, man, that actor really. You don't know where that might lead. You might get picked up. You don't know. Your work is out there. It's on all these platforms. It used to be your work. You was very limited. Back when I started, you either got your VHS, they didn't have DVD, tape, or a theater. Good luck with that. Or on TV, and good luck with that too. And I worked in features back in the 90s. I don't know where they ended up. Trashed up. And maybe some of them went to video. I never knew. So I would say read voraciously. It really kills me. No one reads anymore. And I find it hard to believe that an actor would not read. Because whether it's fiction or biographies, I read both. I read a lot of biographies on actors. And when I was involved with the music business, I would do the same. But not just actors, but both sides of the camera. I have books. If you could see every room in my library, every room in my house, it's got libraries just packed with books on production, both sides of the camera, filmmaking, and just how a film's distributed, and learn everything you can about it, and read, because what you're reading scripts and you have to immerse yourself in this character, in this role. Well, when you're reading a book, you're vicariously living through the protagonist, maybe, or maybe you relate to this other character. It's an exercise. And instead of like, we all have these droughts in between films where I got nothing going on. Yes, you do. You're always working. You don't have any film work for 2 weeks, maybe a month? Study, subscribe to the trades, the Hollywood Reporter. I get that. Variety magazine. Know the business. Even though Hollywood's another planet, has nothing to do with you. All the big mergers of this studio. Know what's going on. Educate yourself, and always be filling your mind with words and knowledge and inspiration. And there's always something to do. And the thing about acting, you can take it with you everywhere. If you're a drummer, it's kind of hard. You can't bring your drums with you everywhere. But you could be driving and just start to make up your own monologue. Look, ever since I was a child, I have this tick of talking to myself. I still do it. When I used to work in warehouses and factories, people would be like, "Is Pete crazy? Look, he's talking." I still do it. I talk to myself. I have conversations with myself. Now, is this a sickness? I don't know. If I ever start answering myself, then maybe I'll go see a therapist. But it's like, constantly be honing your craft. Work on you as you. Read biographies. This is a really good one I'm reading right now. Can you see it? Al Pacino just came out last year. You talk about a guy who paid dues, who lived hand to mouth up until the time he almost got fired. But he could have easily not made it. And he battled with depression, mental issues, drugs, and alcohol. Al freaking Pacino. Read this book. I read almost 3/4 of this book. I just got it yesterday. I'm almost done. Devour it. Then read it again. And go, man, Al Pacino went through shit. And he almost didn't make it, but he did, because he didn't give up. And I can't stand that 5-year rule. I've read these casting directors, these people giving high advice. Well, maybe if you move to LA or whatever, if it doesn't happen in 5 years, maybe it's time to rethink it. Okay, I'm going to be the last time to tell anyone to quit their job, because you're not going to make a living as an actor right off the gate. And it's really, really hard to ever make a living as an actor. But 10 to 20% of actors do. It's not a really high percentage, but why can't you be one of them? So fuck that 5%. Give it your life. How about right to the grave, cradle to grave? And yeah, if you got to, I've been fortunate because I was able to quit my last day job 30 years ago because I struck out on my own, started my own agency as a kid entertainer, booking other kid acts and whatnot. And I was able to quit my last day job, about 1999. So I don't know, man. I don't know. Advice, just believe in yourself. You got to be hungry for it. And here's the thing. There's a difference. You can't just want to act. You have to act. I feel homeless in between roles. I feel like an orphan, man. I got to be playing a character. And that's why, I'll just close with a shameless plug. I wasn't going to do this, but look, this is a phone book of a 850-page book of my 50 years in show business. And the title, I Ain't Him, My Life in Show Business, Whoever I Am. That's because I don't know who I am. I've always been running, and I'm still running, because other actors, I've read them say the same thing. It's like, I don't do life wells, but Robert De Niro would say, I feel safest when I'm on set. Because, like Marlon Brando's right. He said all actors are neurotic. And I think they are. I think I certainly am. I try to, I'm well balanced. I raise a kid. I've been faithfully married to the same beautiful woman for almost 40 years. But, so it's passion. It's like, if you don't have passion for it, and Michael Caine, the legendary Michael Caine, would say, if your mind is occupied with your golf game, or the next time you can get to the beach, or the vacation you want. And I put up with this with my band members. I fired so many band members because I was going to take it to the top. It was just a hobby for them. You're fired. And If you're focused on anything like that, besides acting, it's not for you. You have to be so obsessed with it 24/7. I'm not saying let your loved ones suffer. If you have a spouse, you take care of that spouse. If you have a kid, you take care of that kid. That aside, and I'm sorry, but if your friends and family aren't on board with you, if they want to condescend and poo-poo you, tell them to have a nice day. Because they're probably going to be the last ones to support you because they think they know you. And just like in the Bible, when Jesus said to his disciples, all the people say, "Oh, nothing good ever came out of Nazareth. Isn't that the carpenter's son, Jesus? Who does he think he is? Look at him. We knew him when he was a little kid with a runny nose and everything." And Jesus said to his disciples, "No prophet is at home in his hometown or is valued in his hometown." You have to value yourself and never doubt that you could be the greatest of all time. Never doubt. I watch movies now. Maybe this is because of my confidence, my experience, and it kind of takes away the enjoyment for me in some ways. But when I watch movies, I'm seeing my peers. I'm not seeing movie stars. And I appreciate good acting, but I say it's like, and I'm at a point now where I go, okay, yeah, I know how they do that, and I say that I could tell when an actor is just kind of like running, trying to call it a day. I can read through that stuff, but that comes with study and knowing yourself, and it's all about study, man. And sometimes I wonder how many young aspirants really are you ordering the books. You can get them at the library. You can order them on Amazon used for $3. Pile your room, be surrounded with piles of books on every aspect of filmmaking, both sides of the camera, and it helps. It helps to know. And, the words of, I'll close with this, Brendan. I'll paraphrase President John F. Kennedy. Ask not what your director can do for you. Ask what you can do for your director.
I don't think there's a better way to close this episode. I think that's all really good. You have to put in the work. And here at DBS, we burn all the boats. There's only one way forward. That's it. There's no retreat. We got to keep going. I think Pete's absolutely right. It's not the 5-year plan. Fuck the 5-year plan. We are cradle to the grave, baby. We will be doing this until the day we die. We will be storytelling. We are storytellers at heart. So, guys, I hope you guys appreciate this episode. Please be sure to check out all Pete's stuff. I'm going to put all his links to his projects, his IMDb, in the show notes. The Devil's Hostage will be coming out next year, probably during the summer. I absolutely love this movie. Again, it felt different. Working with all the actors, everyone gave phenomenal performance. It was a huge step up at DBS. I am super happy that we cast Pete. He's a great person. He brought life to this role that was very complex, very dynamic. It was very, very difficult. This movie, watching it now, and Pete hasn't seen it, I have, it's a beast of a movie. We have no right as an indie filmmaker making something like as crazy as this, and we pulled it off as a testament to the hard work of all the actors who worked on this, all the pre-production that Pete did. So I appreciate you, Pete. I appreciate all the DBS fans. Please check out Pete's stuff. Please check out all our stuff. Until next time, guys, we'll talk to you later.